So the folks at the Warner Archive Blu-ray Company have said that in 2023, they're going to be releasing about 5 to 6 Blu-rays per month. And I'm here today to talk about the very first two of the year. That is Our Dancing Daughters and Rancho Notorious. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cobwebs channel, where we are dusting off classic movies. My name is Daniel, and yes, today I'm going to be talking about those first two Blu-ray releases from Warner Archive this year. I am a huge fan of what Warner Archive does. If you're not familiar with them, they basically take old movies that most people don't care about, that maybe it seems like a lot of people don't care about these days, that the studios don't care about, let's say that, and they give them beautiful transfers, sometimes special features, and release them on great Blu-ray releases. They tend to release them for really good prices, and I really enjoy collecting them. And yes, it seemed like a long time ago they were going to go out of business, but they are sticking around. They fought it through, and this year it sounds like they're going to be releasing more than ever, which I'm very excited about, and I want to support as much as I can. So I picked up the first two releases. Let's talk about them today. Now, the main point of this video is going to be talking about these movies and informing you what they're about, what they're like, and if it's the kind of thing that you would be interested in watching yourself and adding to your personal collection. I can tell you that Warner Archive has an incredible track record with transfers, with the way the movies look and sound, and these two movies are absolutely no exception. They're both incredible transfers. Now, as far as special features, that's another story, and we'll get around to that, but I'm here to talk about the movies and let you know what these movies are like and if it's the kind of thing that's for you. So let's talk about Our Dancing Daughters first, chronologically, because it is from 1928. This is actually a silent film, but not entirely silent. It has synchronized soundtrack and score and sound effects. So if you want to compare it to another silent film, it's a lot like Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, right? It is a silent movie. All of the dialogue is in text on screen in between the shots, but it does have a soundtrack and it does have sound effects. I've always found that watching silent films is a muscle. And it's a kind of movie that I think it's very rare for a person to jump right into them and really enjoy them right off the bat. Personally, I had to get used to silent films. I wasn't really into them the first few times I tried, but by now I've really built up that muscle, and I tend to really enjoy these movies at this point, and Our Dancing Daughters is no exception. So what's this movie about? Well, basically, this is a very important film of the jazz age. It's very much about that time in the 1920s and about the flapper girls and the jazz and the Charleston. It's very much about all that. In fact, there's a movie in theaters right now called Babylon that is about this time in history and about people having big swinging parties back in the 1920s. And I haven't seen that film. I can't tell you much about it, but that's the 2022 idea of what that time was like. And this is authentic. This is in the 1920s. This is made by people in the thick of it. So I really appreciate it as a historical document, but also for its significance, it is the film that launched Joan Crawford's career. This movie is starring Joan Crawford, huge star of the classic film days. And I gotta tell you, from watching this movie, it's very easy to see why she was the person that really popped and really became a star off of this film. As far as what the movie is, it's mostly a melodrama, a romantic melodrama, and it's mostly about a love triangle. But I think it's in a really interesting way. It's basically about the idea of how honest should women be with the men that they want to marry. Like, should they kind of make the man think that they're something they're not in order to trap him into marriage, or should they just be honest about who they are, regardless of what the consequences of that might be? And that's kind of the question at the heart of this film. Joan Crawford is a party girl. She refers to herself as Dangerous Diana at one point. And she meets this millionaire guy who she instantly falls in love with before she knows that he's a millionaire. And she's fairly well off too anyway. So it's not about the money. She really falls for him. And they have a short little romance. But then one of her friends wants to marry that guy too. And that girl is being very much pushed by her mother to marry someone rich for economic reasons. So she's definitely gold digging. She's trying to raise her social standing, much motivated by her mother. So even though she's a similar kind of girl as Joan Crawford, she's very much trying to put on a sweet, good girl kind of an image and really making him think that she is this innocent. She's innocent and virginal. There's even a scene where she says, "Oh, I don't drink." And then someone in the room who knows her is like, "Yeah, she inhales." So it's kind of that kind of thing. And Joan Crawford's really dealing with the idea of, hey, I was honest about who I am, and can I get this guy, or is it going to be the girl who's lying to him and telling him what he wants to hear? She even has a friend who, the movie makes it very clear she's had multiple sexual partners, but she's honest with her fiance and they get married, and it's kind of about how they're dealing with that. So that's the movie. That's the idea that's very much at the heart of this movie. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really good. I really liked the movie. Again, like your mileage may vary. Are you into silent movies? Do you have tolerance for romantic melodramas? That's essentially what this is. But the dance sequences are great. There's a scene where Joan Crawford just goes crazy, takes off her skirt and does this crazy dance on a table in front of everyone at this party. It's this pure roaring 20s kind of scene. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote about Joan Crawford once and called her the flapper girl, like the quintessential flapper girl, essentially. And that's, I really appreciate that kind of historical significance for the movie. So I really liked Our Dancing Daughters. I think the ending is not great. If you've seen Ernst Lubitsch's The Smiling Lieutenant, I think that movie is an example of ending this kind of story in a way more interesting and kind of bold way. And not so with this movie, but this is a very early film, and I really liked it. I thought it was good. Now, the movie has no special features. I'll just say this right now. Neither of these do. So no special features on these, but I've heard that for a long time, this movie looked really terrible. It was just in very poor shape, and Warner Archive has cleaned it up immaculately. You know, I've recently seen movies from the mid-30s that like Kino Lorber has released that looked way rougher than this does. So Warner Archive did an incredible job with this, and I recommend it. Next up, let's talk about Rancho Notorious, which is a Western from 1952. By the way, both of these are very short movies. This one is 89 minutes. This one's about 84 minutes. I did want to note that. And Rancho Notorious, I knew nothing about this movie going in except for the people involved. It's starring Marlene Dietrich. You can see her right front and center on the cover, and Arthur Kennedy. If you want to talk about other Westerns, you might know both these people from Westerns, both with Jimmy Stewart. Marlene Dietrich, of course, in Destry Rides Again, and Arthur Kennedy as a supporting actor with Jimmy Stewart in Bend of the River. So you might have seen them both in those movies. And this movie is essentially a classic revenge Western. It is a movie that starts out with Arthur Kennedy and his fiancee, this beautiful girl, and they're very much in love. They're very cute. The movie really lays that on thick. And a robbery happens at this girl's place of business, and she's a victim of an act of violence, essentially. And the movie is Arthur Kennedy off on a journey to try to find the man that killed her and get revenge. There is a title song that goes along with this movie that goes over the opening credits and comes up several times in the film, in which this big booming baritone voice is singing the story of the film. And every verse ends with him boldly yelling, hate, murder, and revenge. He's always singing these words, hate, murder, and revenge. And that very much describes this movie. It's a very dark movie. I thought Arthur Kennedy was awesome in the movie. Marlene Dietrich's the bigger star, so she's a front and center on the poster. She's top billed. I would say Arthur Kennedy is the star of this movie, essentially. And it's a very dark and angry performance. Very angry performance from Arthur Kennedy. And I thought he was excellent. And at the same time, those two main actors have incredible flirtatious banter scenes with just amazing dialogue. And I haven't even mentioned yet, the movie's directed by Fritz Lang. Incredible director of The Big Heat, one of my favorite noirs, and M, one of the biggest serial killer movies of all time. So Fritz Lang just kills it, as can be expected. One of the things that I love the most about this movie is it is a incredibly bright and colorful Western. Like, it's probably one of the most colorful Westerns I've ever seen from the 1950s. So bright and vivid and beautiful. Just a gorgeous film to look at from start to finish. And I just really appreciated that. I kind of compared the movie a lot in my head to Johnny Guitar, because Marlene Dietrich plays a ranch boss. She's essentially a ranch boss that lets outlaws hide out at her ranch in exchange for 10% of any robberies that they do. So she's kind of a boss, much in the way that Joan Crawford is. Hey, Joan Crawford. In Johnny Guitar, and the movie has a very similar look in how bright and vivid it is. And there are even just like backdrops of the sky that are bright purple. Just a gorgeous film. I would say if you like Johnny Guitar, you should definitely check out Rancho Notorious, even though this one came out first, actually, a little bit earlier. The movie is mostly a thriller. It's pretty low on action, but it does have a pretty incredible shootout and chase in the third act. And I just thought it was a really good time. A really solid 1950s Western, not particularly unique in the storytelling, but with very good performances and beautiful, colorful cinematography. Like I said, again, no special features on this one, but that is Warner Archive's first two releases for 2022, Our Dancing Daughters and Rancho Notorious. I truly recommend them both. These were not sent to me. This is not a commercial. This is genuinely my thoughts on what Warner Archive is doing right now and if it's worth adding to your collection. In the case of these two, I think so. So there are 3 more Warner Archive Blu-rays coming out in January, and I have them all pre-ordered. I will be covering all of them on this channel. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe, because that's going to be coming out within less than 2 weeks, I would say. And if you enjoyed the video, would appreciate a like. It really does help out the channel. And thank you so much for watching. My name is Daniel. Once again, I'm with the Cobwebs channel, and I will see you next time.